The 90s was an unbelievably awesome decade of some of the best formative games in almost every genre. And for me, this was the game that made me a strategy game nerd. Hello there, strategy gamers, and welcome to my channel where I talk all things strategy games. Today, I'd like to talk about maybe not one game, but four strategy games that made me a fan of this genre, a connoisseur, a god in okay, not really that, but you get the point. You know, we've all had our first strategy game that has made us fall in love with the genre in the first place. So yeah, this video is like a discussion. Do tell me in the comments the first strategy game you played and the first one you fell in love with. It's 1992 and the system I had was a 486 DX2, and I just got around to getting a brand new Sound Blaster sound card. Ooh, shiny. When Dune 2 came out at the right time for me to discover what games could be if they had sound. No more beeps and bops for me, because from the very first moment I booted up the game, I heard the voice in the intro cutscene and the sound of the sands of Arrakis blowing in the wind. I was blown away. The game itself was really the first real-time strategy game I have ever played. While Dune 2 wasn't really considered as the first ever RTS, which I believe goes to that game Herzog Zwei, which came out just before the 90s, Dune 2, I guess you could say, popularized the modern RTS conventions that we know of today. Dune 2 was also a massive step forward for Westwood Studios, who have found their footing after Dune. Rest in peace, because they became the juggernaut RTS devs and then they got purchased by EA, and like all things EA does, they got shut down. Remember that the first game, Dune, was actually not an RTS at all. It was more like an adventure game mixed with a strategy game. I've not played that one, but I suppose it has its own charm. Dune 2 has the classic three differing factions that are similar in a lot of ways, you could say that, and also different with some unique units and buildings here and there. And for the first time, I felt like a general commanding the battlefield. Albeit in a more intense, less strategic way, Dune 2 sold the beauty of a real-time strategy. Your tactics, the feedback you got immediately, you just adapted your tactics on the fly. Dune 2 also had its issues because, you know, it was after all the first or one of the first RTS ever. So issues like we've got to hunt for that last building or that one single unit left, and the map was rather limited, you know, in size and variety, and the fog of war was not really realistic. You know, it's like you reveal the fog of war the first time and it stayed revealed, so there's no real line of sight as well. And this is something that a lot of early RTS games after Dune 2 also did this. They didn't actually evolve RTS much actually. But yeah, Dune 2 was the foundation of what was to come from Westwood. Of course, the brilliance of Command & Conquer, which is a much better game, no doubt. But this was really the first computer strategy game I had played. Now, when it comes to feeling like a battlefield general though, there was one game that really blew me away times two, and that was Shogun Total War, the first Total War from Creative Assembly. What initially was supposed to be more top-down, conventional RTS, a simple shift of the camera and voila, you were the general commanding the army. To this day, I still mention about how Shogun Total War was such a big game for me. While I think for many of you, Rome Total War was probably your first, and yes, Rome was a massive leap for CA. But remember the complaints, you know, of the fans at that time, how the shift to 3D made battles feel faster, more arcadey rather than strategic, you know, and slower paced like in Shogun and in Medieval. Well, you know, regardless of that, Rome Total War did set the precedent for all future Total War games. Whatever you thought about the speed and whatnot, one thing you can't complain was that the controls have been improved like so much. I only wish Creative Assembly can make like a new Total War game with a massive leap in the battle engine. Well, until then, well, we can all keep dreaming on about it. So, not everything is about war and destruction, because in the 90s there was another very popular genre, the tycoon games. And to me, the one that sucked my life was none other than Railroad Tycoon 2 by PopUp Software. This is the studio that later on went to make the original Tropico. Now, I was also very much addicted to that other phenomenal tycoon game, Roller Coaster Tycoon. But Railroad Tycoon 2 stood out for me because it was the first game I played that really emphasized the business aspects of things. It was the first game that I played that had a stock market, you could buy out your competitors. Things like supply and demand mattered and it influenced growth of the towns. This game really made me a huge fan of tycoon and management games. And yes, we had a ton of copycat tycoon games in that era, and they were pretty low quality after these classics came out. But today I'm really looking forward to more indie offerings that would scratch my Railroad Tycoon 2 itch. And we finally have the most complex of all strategy games, the grandest of the grandest of the grandest strategies, the grand strategies. Strategy games you can't play without reading the freaking manual. I think I spent days reading the manual for this one before I even booted up the game. Europa Universalis, when it came out, seemed like a bonkers thing. A game of this scope in real time, it seemed like impossible. Don't get me wrong, the first Europa Universalis was not a great game to play in terms of the whole user experience. Remember, thousands of pop-ups, hundreds of sliders, the where's the information when you need it syndrome, and the millions of pop-ups, did I say that? But it also let me do something I was never able to do, which is lead a nation in history and diverging from history. I learned a lot of history playing this game and a bunch of other cool stuff about cultures. And really, I think the real MVP of Europa Universalis is the damn soundtrack. It's one of the best game soundtracks that to vibe to. I mean, tell me in the comments if you agree with me on that one. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. No Civilization for me. It wasn't the most influential game for me. But yeah, tell me in the comments what was your first love in strategy games, I mean. Yeah, and a quick thanks to all of you for watching my videos and subscribing to my channel. And you can hit that subscribe button if you feel like it. Yep, that helps a lot. Thank you. Now, if you want to know a bit more about the Total War series, I did this video over here that goes through the games in the Total War series. With a lot more emphasis on the earlier ones, the good ones, I guess. Go watch that video out here. Thanks for watching, bye bye.